Okay, I think we're about ready to get started here. Awesome. So again, welcome to the workshop. Hello, my name is Kyle Wilson, and I'm the RPA support manager for the Robotic Operations Centers. My role is to establish and maintain the support procedures and deliverables for our clients. Today we have with us Justin Keefe, who's our RPA platform support manager, and Walid Sattar, who's our RPA level 1 support manager. The topic for today is dashboards. So we're going to follow this agenda. We're going to discuss what dashboards are, why we use dashboards, and the different types of dashboards that are used. Then we'll discuss the key considerations while building dashboards, and then move into how we actually use these dashboards in real life in practice. After that, we will open up for questions and discussion. So again, thank you all for joining. So first, what are dashboards? So dashboards by definition are a graphical summary of various pieces of important information. Typically, it's used to give an overview of a business. For us, they provide a level of automation support and allows business teams deep visibility into the important bot metrics, such as your bot performance, health checks, issues and errors on a real-time basis, the volumes of work that have been completed, overall costs, and benefit measurements for automation overall. So next is, so why dashboards and where does it fit within our operational framework? So first, the Robotic Operations Center, the primary focus is ensuring that your automation workforce is being utilized, monitored, and improved no matter what platform you're using. So if you're using Blue Prism, UiPath, or Automation Anywhere, a Robotic Operations Center can definitely help out, again, using this framework, and we're able to provide automation dashboards for all of those vendors. The ROC also provides level 1, level 2, and platform support for your automations, each of them with their own skill set and responsibility. Communication is very important with many different teams that you have within your enterprise. So your business SMEs, your infrastructure teams, the development teams. So operating within our framework is very important to building your support practice. We've built out an operational framework that we use to run our robotic operation centers, and one piece of that framework is dashboards. So where do dashboards fit in the operational framework? Dashboards play an important role in managing enterprise robotic operations, and by using these dashboards, a fleet of bots can be monitored, maintained, and measured to ensure optimal performance and low running costs. The dashboards are used differently depending on which team member is using them. So first, our level 1 support team would be using these dashboards for bot monitoring, where they're proactively looking for bots that may be experiencing errors, application issues, maybe they're having issues with transactions, or they're running longer than expected, the bots may be stuck, etc. So our level 1 support team relies on these dashboards really for preemptive alerts and for monitoring. The level 2 support team, how they utilize our dashboards is they allow them to quickly identify what segment of their automation is having issues. They can look for specific transactions within the dashboards. They can look at different applications, and it makes it easier for them to pinpoint the location of the code that is having the issue. Now, our platform support team uses them in 2 different ways. The first is they can monitor the health of the systems that the automations depend on. That's very important to maintaining your automation practice. The next is looking at your license deployments and optimizing those. So what we're referring to here is how the bots are actually being used. Do we have enough licenses? Of the number of licenses that we do have, are we using them enough? So that's where they fit within our operational framework. Now I'll discuss the different types of dashboards that we build within our robotic operations centers. The first is our operations dashboard. So the operations staff, they use these dashboards because they're specifically designed and developed for the automation support team. And they're utilized really for live monitoring of your automation executions on an ongoing basis. what these dashboards focus on is trying to answer these main questions here, like how many issues or errors are we seeing from the automations? Where are we seeing them? How are the bots being utilized? Are we seeing any irregularities in the data? And how is our support team actually performing with this information? The next functional group is the business dashboards. So the function of this group is really to build these dashboards specifically designed for the business users, because the business requires insights into the volume and the quality of work that is being performed by the bots. These dashboards provide information such as completed and pending transaction, what business exceptions are being generated, how fast is that work being done, and what are the monthly and quarterly trends that we're seeing. So generally, the business is interested in measuring the benefits of their digital workforce inside their organization. So these business dashboards can help them calculate the metrics that they need to get the corresponding cost benefits that they're looking for. Really, to sum up, by implementing these types of dashboards, an enterprise ROC support staff, we're able to prevent automation failures. We can reduce bot downtime and increase the overall automation program efficiency. So now that I've talked a little bit about, yeah, no problem. We're going to hold questions right until the end, just because we have a decent amount of content to go through. But now that I've discussed the types of dashboards that we have and why they're important, I'm going to bring it over to Justin Keefe to talk about how these dashboards are actually built.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk to you about the key considerations you want to take into account while you're building your dashboards for your robotic operations center. So the first thing, before we get into dashboards and building them, we have to discuss what are logs. So logs are time-stamped JSON files that contain informational warning and error events.
And we're about to get FA user as well. Well, FA manager, actually.
Yeah. So
could everyone just make sure they're on mute? Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, logs are JSON timestamp files that contain informational warning and error events. And these log files are created by the robots while they're running processes. And these will make up most of your dashboards in your robotic operations center. So you get these logs from your robots, as I said, when they're running specific processes. They'll create logs based on the process level. So when processes begin and end, they'll create logs. When they run successfully, when they fail, they'll create logs. On transaction level, logs will also be created. So when your bot's process has multiple transactions in it, each transaction will create different logs. And then you'll have errors and exception logs that are created when your process runs into errors or business exceptions or technical exceptions. Those log messages will come up. And then you'll have user level logs, which are your developers, when they're coding the bots, they'll create messages to say something like an activity ended, or a warning message that an error might come up. They'll create those user level logs. And those are the majority of where your logs come from for your robots. Now, where are you going to store those logs? So you have two main ways you're going to store your logs. You're going to have in your database system, that's going to hold your process information. So this is going to hold more high level about your process running, has those process level logs will be put into that. Usually you'll use an SQL relational database to store that information, and that'll include information of like your bot run times, how long the process ran for, how many transactions it finished, was they successful, were they failed, are there any noteworthy errors? That will be stored in your database systems. And then in your data clusters and your data warehouses, that's going to hold your robot execution logs. And there are a lot more robot execution logs, which is why you need a data cluster to hold this, because your robots will create tons of messages. This will have all the logs that the robots are creating will be stored in here. And the reason you use a data cluster is because data clusters are much faster at returning that information, so your dashboards will load up much faster. Two good examples of data clusters you could use would be an Elasticsearch data cluster or a Splunk index data cluster. These work very well for holding that large amount of information and returning it as fast as possible. Now we'll start to talk about some of the dashboards you can get with those logs. So with your process information logs, they're primarily in your SQL databases. You'll get a lot of reports such as like your bot utilization dashboards. These dashboards are very useful for seeing when your bot is running and for how long, so you can optimize licenses. You can, if one bot doesn't have as many processes running on it, you can run different processes and you can mix and match where your bots are running these processes so you get the most out of the licenses you have for your robots. And you'll also see that'll go into your process runtime dashboards that will show you these bots are and processes are running right now, so you can look more closely into them. You also get, some dashboards that talk about the success and the failure of your processes from a higher level, so you can see which processes are failing the most, which ones you should look into from a higher level. And this will give you a lot of your reporting dashboards that you'll use to monitor your bots long term. And that will mostly come from your database systems. And then you'll have your robot execution logs. Now, this will come from your data clusters. And these allow for more real-time monitoring because they have that speed and that performance of being a data cluster. You'll be able to get real-time monitoring, watch your bot to the 5 seconds of it running. You'll be able to see exactly what's happening. You'll be able to see transactional information. So if your transactions on your bots are starting to fail, they're running successfully, you'll be able to monitor this in real time to be able to better support your bots. And then you'll also be able to see real-time errors. So if your processes and your transactions are starting to have a lot of errors and things are failing out, you'll be able to see right away, and you can get real-time alerts that'll send you emails, text messages, phone calls, so you'll know your bots are failing, so you know to look into them right away. And also, since these data clusters can hold a lot of information, you can get a lot of really good long-term bot health reports out of these, so you can see how your bot has performed, over the past year, past 2 years, so you can compare and make decisions on your bots based off of a lot of historical data too. Can we go to the next slide, Kyle? Now we talked about some of the dashboards. Now let's talk about the tools you can use to visualize this data. So there's a lot of different tools you can use to visualize your data, but these are some of the tools we found the most effective in our own RPA implementations. So I like to break these up into 2 different types of tools. So you're going to have your free tools that don't require a license, and you're going to have your licensed tools. Your free tools are better to use at the beginning of your RPA journey. And then once you have a ton of bots and a lot of information, you're going to want to go to more of your licensed tools for better performance, better dashboards, better reports. So in your free tools, the first one is Kibana. So what Kibana is a visualization tool for data clusters that helps to give you real-time and reporting dashboards. These dashboards are very effective for at the beginning of your RPA journey to make dashboards as fast as possible and to have that real-time monitoring so you can tell when things go wrong. With the free version, you don't get some of the added features like the real-time alerts, the real-time reports, and some other things, but it's very good for your first dashboards to be used Kibana. And then you can also use web-based scripting languages. These help you to visualize your data clusters and your database systems together in one source. These can be very custom to your own needs, and you can make whatever you essentially want. This can be done with with JavaScript or a lot of third-party APIs on the web can help you make these dashboards very easily and effectively and connect to your data clusters and your database systems. But these you would have to make yourself. And then we get into the more licensed tools. So one of the more licensed tools is Splunk. Splunk is very useful to help visualize both your data cluster and your database systems in one source. It'll help give you real-time dashboards that will show you the second your bots fail. And you can set up alerts, like I mentioned before, that you can send emails, phone calls, text messages, so you know when your bots fail, or if they're running successfully, you know right away. You can also create scheduled reports that will be sent directly to the business on a timely manner, so you don't have to manually run reports. You can set up a report to happen every week, and then it'll send directly to the person it needs to send. So that's a very effective tool once you start getting a lot of bots. And then Elasticsearch and Kibana, there's also a licensed version of this software that's very effective, has a lot of the similar features as Splunk, but also allows you to leverage machine learning and AI techniques such as predictive analysis to start predicting when your bots might fail. Let's say, for example, your bot every month it has to have a password reset. Well, you could predict with past data when the next time that bot would fail, and then you can use that information to correct the issue before it happens. So that's what a lot of the more licensed features have. A lot better dashboarding reporting tools. You can start putting machine learning to really make some dynamic and effective dashboards. Can we go to the next slide, Kyle? So one very key and important aspect of when building dashboards is to have log standardization. So log standardization is very important to make sure all your information is in a structured and uniform manner. And there's several reasons why you want to do this, but 3 of the main ones. The first reason would be for your data analytics team. So your data analytics team will mostly be the ones building your dashboards for you based off of your robots. And they might not know everything about your robots, all the little information that your development team or your support team would know. So having that information very standardized and easy to understand and digest is very easy for them to create effective dashboards and effective reporting tools, and allows them to make them very standardized, very uniform, and allows them to understand, give you the best insights into your bots. And then you'll have your development team. With log standardization, it'll allow for your development team to do easy debugging because everything's structured the same way, everything's understood, the information is easy to digest, and it's uniform across all your processes. It allows you also to reuse a lot of your code, and it allows for more team collaboration because everyone will be able to understand what is happening with the process. And then your support team will also benefit from log standardization because they'll have an easier understanding of processes because everything's done in a uniform way, and then code repair can be done a lot faster, and then the bots will be more operational in the long term. So log standardization is a very, very important part of a robotic operations center. And now you might be asking, like, where do I want to start when standardizing your logs? Well, first, you want to standardize your process level logs. You want to make sure everything is uniform across all your different processes. So therefore, that everything is uniform. When you're making dashboards, you can make very general dashboards that can pull information from all your processes at the same time. And then you also want to do it on your transactional level. You want those to be uniform too. So the same thing, so that information can be pulled in. You want all your errors and your exceptions. You want those to be very standardized so you can, once again, so you can use all that data. And then the user level logs, so future developers who work on processes and on these bots can know exactly what's happening right away. Now, you might ask where to start when standardizing your logs. So one important thing is to make sure you're using the same naming conventions in all your logs. You want everything, if things are worded two different ways, but they mean the same way, you want them to be worded the same way. You don't want 10 different things that mean the same thing. You also want to look into your style of how you're coding. Are you using camel casing? Are you using underscores? You want the style to be uniform across all your processes. And then you want to make sure that all your developers are using the same structured conventions. Like if they're using frameworks, you want them all to use the same frameworks. And a big part of it is having a clear plan and having all your developers sticking to it. Having code reviews with your developers, having people overseeing the log standardization process, especially your data analytics team, is very helpful in making those effective dashboards and reports later on. And then we could get into, when do you want to start standardizing your logs? Well, you want to start standardizing your logs with your first automation if possible, but it's never too late. If your logs aren't standardized, it's important to make sure they're standardized as soon as possible to avoid confusion in the future. It can be very hard to create dashboards for bots that their logs are not standardized. It can be very long, time consuming, and you won't get the insights that you would if your logs were standardized. And with that, we will get into, my friend Walid will talk about some of the dashboards that in practice.
Thank you, Justin. Good afternoon, and thank you all again for joining our dashboards workshop. My name is Walid Sattar, and I help manage our level 1 support team. I'll spend some time reviewing the different types of dashboards we use in the Robotic Operations Center. So the beginning of our day for a support team includes accessing dashboards that display key components of our production environments. This dashboard is built to highlight processes that require our attention. The dashboard depicts faulted processes, which are processes that abruptly stopped without completing all assigned tasks, also processes that have failed transactions with a description of that exception message, as well as processes that have failed with the timestamp included, so we know where in the log messages we need to triage that process. So the first thing to dive into when monitoring is our longest running processes and check their logs through our dedicated platform. We want to ensure that they are productively logging. Processes may get stuck with an error message or application exception, and this is where we would intervene and help the process along to complete its assigned tasks. It's essential to get an appropriate time snapshot of our production robots, preferably 12 hours for active monitoring, so we can assess the exceptions logged and investigate accordingly. Going into our next slide, we're reviewing our errors dashboard. This is essential when maintaining bots. Real-time monitoring errors dashboard should be created alongside a historical dashboard of errors. The real-time monitoring errors dashboard allows us to see exactly when your bots are experiencing errors, what those errors are, and how to assess the damage of those errors to find an appropriate solution. In Figure 1, the errors or exceptions are highlighted in orange. If exceptions occur, these dashboards will show them as they happen, allowing for quicker error handling and bot correction before ample work time is lost. And with this example, we can designate our attention to key processes that require a little bit more attention. The dashboard in Figure 2 is displaying 3 different processes that are running on separate robots. The colored bars signify productive transactions, while these red flags are highlighting errors or exceptions that the bot has experienced. Going back to what Justin had mentioned earlier, if there is an error message every month that states the login credentials are expired, the support staff will notice this pattern in the errors and be able to correct it before the error is encountered again. This preemptive capability allows bots to run longer, saving us time, energy, and money. So now going into our next slide, we have our bot utilization dashboards. So what do we use this for? Similar to managing a human workforce, it's important to keep track of your digital workforce's productivity. Robots are more productive with the more work they're completing. So it becomes largely important for an organization to ensure that their robots are being fully utilized. Every robotic operations center should have a dashboard that provides visibility into bot and virtual machine utilization. Using this data, the operations staff can optimally reorganize the enterprise workload by completing as many tasks as possible while using fewer resources. Such dashboards provide a measure on how frequently bots have been utilized within the selected time frame. And these dashboards are typically in a column chart form and are built by taking the total time a bot has run within the selected time period and dividing it by the amount of times the bot could have been active. For the best results, there should be a dashboard for daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and all-time bot utilization. Now going into our next slide, we're introducing our business dashboards. So this shows our total transactions completed. Now, what are these used for? These are more for our end-of-month reporting when the business is looking for key metrics to review. And dashboards, of course, are not only a vital asset and tool in monitoring for support, but they allow us to convey to our clients how the business is trending. We are able to depict historical data in ways that enhance our clients' practice and seeing where they may want to spend more time enhancing or supplementing their digital workforce. This data helps our clients during periodic reviews so they can see the benefits of their digital workforce in a measurable metric. Dashboards help us visualize this data. Going into our next slide here, we're able to view how many RPA projects have entered production. You can see the amount of successful deployments increasing as our clients are able to see the role of RPA in their task growing. As more automations are being added into the client's workforce, you can expect the upward trend of more successful tasks being automated as shown in our next slide. So now the next slide here is our real-time transactional data. It also gives us a good indication of the current workload per robot or process by comparing it against historical volumes. If a bot is overloaded, adjustments can be made to improve efficiency, to correct the overload, or can even help make the case for why another robot should be added to a certain process to help complete this work. In our next slide here, we're able to use this chart generated by our historical logs produced by the robots, and we're able to help our clients view how the different divisions of the business are performing and get insight into how our clients are utilizing their robots across the different divisions or departments. Here we have the data spread across almost 1.5 years of transactions or tasks completed by the digital workforce. Now, these transactional dashboards are a necessary form of dashboard for any process that uses queues and transactions. They help make sure the bots are performing the work they're built for and that they're completing it successfully. Now I'll bring it back to Kyle so he can review how we can measure our operational staff's productivity.
Great, thanks, Walid. So, when you've taken a look at your automation workload, you next want to take a look at how your support team is performing. So the first thing that we take a look at is the total number of tickets that have been created or incidents. You can use that simultaneously. And what we use this for is to planning for our support. So we want to look at what are the ticket volume trends. Do support members need to be added? Is the introduction of new automations causing a rise in tickets? And what automations are now causing the most tickets? So we can use this general dashboard here and then dive deeper and deeper into specific automations. But really, it's used for planning purposes. Now, when we're looking at the total tickets that have been assigned, we want to see the distribution of those tickets. So we can use this to evaluate our support members. We can see who is handling the most incidents, what the distribution is between your level 1, level 2, and platform support team, what is causing this distribution of tickets, And then we can look deeper into the average time per incident per person to get even deeper into our evaluation of the support model. The next two things that we would look at is our team's response time and resolution time. But first, we want to look at the response. So what we mean here by response time is the time that it takes from when an incident is opened by the business or when the support team identifies this and when they move that in progress. So what you're looking at here, what true means is when we responded outside of our normal time. So we have breached the response SLA. And then what false means is we have been able to respond to that issue on time. So by taking a look at this, we can see, number one, are we responding to issues on time? How is our response time trending? And who is actually missing these response times? Next is we would look at our team's resolution times here. So what we define as resolution time is the time that it takes from when an incident is opened until when it's resolved. So what we really want to look at here is, are we fixing our automations on time? How is our resolution time trending? Are we taking longer to solve issues? Are we taking shorter amount of time? We can then dive into specific members. Are they missing more resolution times than others? Do we need to have other conversations with them on the side? And then we can also calculate our average resolution time so that we can give a realistic expectation to the business. Now, some things that we would want to consider here are there might be forces that are outside of our control that might cause these resolution times to be affected. Also, are we able to get test information or data that we need in time? And we can also measure how urgently our team is responding and working these issues. So with all of that information, that is it for our presentation on dashboards. I know we have about a minute or two left here, so I'd like to open up 2 questions. Now, Megan, are you on the line here?
Yep.
Great. Do we have any questions already queued up?
Yes, there are some that were submitted. The first one is, what types of dashboards are essential when you're first starting a robotic operations center?
All right, Justin, could you take that
Well,
one?
I would say really when you're first starting your robotic operations center, the first set of dashboards you really want to create are your errors live dashboards. These will show you from your data clusters, these will show you the live errors that are happening with your bots, and those will be very invaluable in the beginning to know exactly where the errors are happening, especially early on. And then your transactions dashboards, which will show you how your transactions are running and if they're running successfully or if you're getting any exceptions. Those will be the 2 most effective dashboards early on to use that will give you the best insights and the most useful information in your processes.
Okay. The next one is, do the dashboards get more complex as more robots are being monitored?
The answer to that would be a yes and a no. Depending on how standardized your logs are, your dashboards can scale with your RPA operations. They can scale the same way, and they'll be easy if everything is standardized. If you don't have any log standardization, your dashboards will get infinitely complex, and they will be very hard to manage. You'll have to remake the same dashboard multiple times to show the information. So really, it depends on how standardized your logging system is.
Okay, and it looks like there's one more. Let's see. Are dashboards built into my RPA platform?
Well, some RPA platforms do have dashboards built into them. Like I know UiPath has UiPath Monitor, but they are very simple dashboards that only report the past 24 hours. So really, they come with very simple dashboarding tools, but you really are going to want to build your own to have a really good view on monitoring and enhancing and supporting your processes in the long term.
Right. And to add to that, certain businesses in different industries may stress importance on certain data. So a lot of these out of the box or dashboards that already come with your automation program, they might not have the information that you're looking for. So that's where we would come in as the Robotic Operations Center, where we can build them custom to what you're looking for.
Okay, cool. That was the last one submitted. So, thank you guys so much, everyone, for joining. And the next session will be in 2 days.
Awesome. Great. Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone, for joining.
Thank you
All right,
guys.
thank you.